Ladies and gentlemen across the galaxy, 5v5 is upon us yet again, and it's nice coming back to a bit of normalcy. Isn't that right, Larry? We're going to be basically going over more or less the Grand Arena meta, the best offensive teams, the best defensive teams, some tips and tricks sprinkled in there, how to get ready for Galactic Legends that you might be seeing on defense inevitably for a lot of you guys out there. We're going to talk about all of that today, and we have a lot to talk about, so let's just kind of get straight to the game right now so we can tackle this topic ASAP, ladies and gentlemen. Let's address firstly, I gotta get a couple questions about this. Right now, this month for Grand Arena, we have the Jedi Council theme, meaning you're gonna be using some Jedi Generals and people on the Jedi Council to get some feats. Firstly, I don't think that's going to indicate we're gonna get Jedi Reworks. Usually Grand Arena feats have zero to little correlation to what's going on with Galaxy of Heroes at large, but with that in mind, we're gonna be kind of giving you a lot of ideas to help you get those feats that might help you get the Kyber if you're a few points short for the season. And now let's address that Bothan spy in the room, shall we? Gary, by the way, can we deal with that Bothan spy? Galactic Legends. I mean, we already know how this is going to work. If you're fighting Galactic Legends, you firstly, whether you have Galactic Legends or not, if your opponents do, sometimes you're going to come across an opponent that has at least one Galactic Legend and you don't. You need to master the counters. You need to know the counters at hand to beat them. And if you have Galactic Legends and your opponent does, generally the meta is you both place both Galactic Legends on the front wall, bottom zone of Grand Arena. Isn't that so much fun? You both got to kind of get frustrated trying to beat each other's Galactic Legends. So let's talk about that right now. And I don't want to talk too much about Galactic Legends because not every one of you guys will see them or have them, but it's still important just to know in general what to do if you do stumble across it. If you're a 2 and above, you'll probably see it, but if you're under Division 2, you shouldn't be seeing Galactic Legends, and if you do, I'm sorry to hear that. Here's our two biggest counters. Thrawn, Vader, doesn't matter which way you want to go for the lead. Wat Tambor, extremely crucial for beating Galactic Legends rate. This, whatever you do, if you do Vader lead or Thrawn lead, in my opinion, the best way to counter Galactic Legends. I love Thrawn lead because, oh boy, we've made plenty of videos on it showing how a full 90% Empire team gets the job done, getting 60 banners up against Rey. You don't need Probe Droid and Shore Trooper. That's what I like to use. Some people like Patreya, Bastila Shan, but whatever the case might be, you are going to be wanting to have either a Vader lead or a Thrawn lead with Wat Tambor to beat Galactic Legends Rey. If you don't have a good Vader, you're going to have to go down the route of Darth Revan, Bastila Shan, Thrawn, Wat Tambor, Genos and Brood Alpha, or Darth Malak. You need to have some counter, and Jedi Knight Revan, Bastila Shan, Hermit Yoda is kind of the main trio for a lot of the Jedi counters up against whether or not it's Rey or Kyle. There's going to be different variations. For example, Jedi Knight Revan, Bastila Shan, Hermit Yoda, Thrawn, Gas is a counter for Rey, but Jedi Knight Revan, Bastila Shan, Hermit Yoda, Jedi Knight Luke, Obi-Wan, for example, or Wat Tambor is a counter for Galactic Legends Kylo. So you want to make sure you have a good Jedi team, a good Thrawn or Vader-led team to beat those Galactic Legends. I don't care if you have Galactic Legends or not. Be prepared just in case you come across them. Even if you don't have Galactic Legends, chances are you should have at least one of these two teams. You don't need a good Wat Tambor. You just need the Zeta to counter those Galactic Legends out there. But good news is, for those of you who are not going to be fighting Galactic Legends, you can now take these two teams and beat a variety of other stuff out there. For example, you can break this up to a lot of different teams out there. Or Jedi Knight Revan, if you're not fighting Galactic Legends, Kylo or Rey, you can use them to beat General Grievous, Padme, Darth Revan. Really, the only team that Jedi Knight Revan can't really beat is General Anakin Skywalker. So you have a ton of flexibility with your Jedi to use for a lot of stuff out there. It beats every team except like one team out there pretty much. But Commander Luke Skywalker is kind of in a similar situation like Jedi Knight Revan. It beats basically every single team, less viability up against Galactic Legends, unlike the Jedi here. But it can beat Gas. It can beat Darth Revan. It can beat Padme, Jedi Knight Revan themselves. There's a lot of different compositions, even without 3-Pac. I'm just putting 3-Pac in there because I'll be using it. But you can do Obi-Wan here. You could do Wat Tambor, C-3PO, and Old Ben is a popular combo that beats General Anakin Skywalker. But if you're trying to maximize your banners, a big tip is to underdog, ladies and gentlemen. And Commander Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and Chewbacca is definitely one of the best underdog teams out there to give you a couple more banners that might determine if you win. A lot of Grand Arenas are determined by 1 or 2 extra banners in the end. Now we move on to the Sith trio. We don't need to talk too much about them. You're not going to see them on defense too much. It's more of an offensive team because, one, you might want to break up trade to help with your Galactic Legends counters, or beat some Geonos in. You can beat Padme Amidala, for example. If you're not needing Thrawn for Galactic Legends, throw Thrawn with Darth Trey to beat things like Padme. General Grievous, for example. Palpatine. If you're not needing Darth Vader for any Galactic Legends counter, use Vader with Palpatine. That is going to be a deadly deadly combo for a lot of things out there. Man, even Palpatine and Vader, especially now with the new turn meter changes that we got, should help it be more consistent, even against teams like Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker. But this right here can help you beat a lot of things. General Grievous, Padme, Geonosians are going to be kind of the most common uses for these teams right here. And now we move on to the Galactic Republic, which is going to kind of coincide to our conversation of what the Grand Arena Championship theme is of the Jedi Council. And ideally, here's a big tip for Grand Arena. You need to maximize your roster. You need to be able to take your factions that you've built up and try to stretch them into as many teams as possible. And that's through a combination of trying to underdog some teams and kind of break up some teams that might be just as good with different variations. For example, General Anakin Skywalker, not as commonly seen as defense because there's a lot of counters. Darth Revan can counter to an extent. Commander Luke Skywalker is a near perfect counter to General Anakin Skywalker, but you can underdog a lot of teams with General Anakin Skywalker if you have it. He's got massive damage. He's got counterattacks, increased cooldowns. So General Anakin Skywalker, one other character, Ahsoka Tano maybe, is going to beat a lot of stuff out there. If you can't do that, of course, you can take this, the rest of the 501st, throw it up Anakin so you can beat things like Darth Revan. If you don't have a Darth Revan counter like Commander Luke Skywalker, my plan is to maybe use Commander Luke Skywalker for those occasional Darth Revans I might see out there. But General Anakin Skywalker with the 501st, fantastic Darth Revan counter. Best one outside of Galactic Legends and Commander Luke Skywalker. But ideally, you want to try to have gas solo a team. You're going to find at least one team that's kind of a C-grade defensive team, and you're going to want to try to have gas. Knock them dead. So that way you could spread your roster a bit thinner by having teams like Shakti and the clones. This, for example, might be good to counter General Grievous. If you're using your Jedi Knight Revan to counter, for example, Galactic Legends, well, you have a couple options. You can use Trey to beat Grievous, for example, or you can use your Shakti 501st clones to beat General Grievous. A lot of different fun combos out there. Then there's Padme Amidala being your third team. Of course, you can underdog quite a lot with Padme Amidala, or you can beat a lot of decent teams out there. I was almost tempted to place Padme on defense on this list because I can't see an argument now that people are not using Grandmaster Yoda as much of Jedi Revan because he's not really helpful against the Galactic Legends. You can do Padme, Jedi Anakin, Kenobi, and Yoda on defense, and that can make things really difficult for your opponents to deal with. But still, this is a great team to beat a lot of stuff out there, and it nabs you a lot of banners. One of the things is with the offensive teams, you want obviously the counters to beat teams, but you want counters that are going to give you a lot of banners in the end. Just winning isn't all there is to it, unless you don't care about the Kyber and all that stuff. Of course, we know that's fake Kyber and Galaxy of Heroes. But if you're trying to actually try hard and get wins, you need to make sure you nab every single banner as possible. Now we have Jedi Training Ray, BB-8, and Finn. This team is losing viability at the end game, but it still can beat a lot of bounty hunter teams out there. It can beat some Kylo Ren teams. It's good for weeding out those C and possibly B teams out there. But I will say, if you have your resistance heroes, Poe and Finn, and you don't have a Galactic Legend yet, this is going to be even better. It counters Darth Revan. It makes Geo counters a lot more consistent out there. But without the resistance heroes, you definitely lose a degree of viability. I sometimes throw this team on defense and maybe give BB-8 to General Grievous, which we'll talk about in a second, and then maybe just put the veteran smuggler Han and Chewie on there. It's losing viability for sure, but if you have the resistance heroes and you don't need them for Galactic Legends Rey, this is going to be a better team then. And then you don't need to have Imperial Troopers per se. This is the pride and joy of our Empire as well, like that Thrawn team up north. What I want to point out here is, yes, Imperial Troopers is going to be a good team, because keep in mind, at end game, you need 7 offensive teams, 7 defensive teams at the minimum. Some mistakes happen. You might need an 8th or a 9th offensive team out there. But build up a team if you have the time and resource, or you already have it made. Find a good offensive team that might not be great on defense, but can weed out a decent team that you're going to be seeing kind of frequently in Grand Arena. Night Sisters, very commonly seen. Bounty Hunters, very commonly seen on defense. And Imperial Troopers, some people might have a good Scoundrel team, for example, built up. For me, it's Imperial Troopers. Having that one team to weed out a Night Sister team, for example, well, that saves me the room of using my Commander Luke Skywalker sometimes, or using Padme. Sometimes people use Padme up against Jango. Well, there you go. Imperial Troopers dealt with them. Find it if you have a passion project that's good for beating a lot of things. For me, it's Imperial Troopers. For other people, it might be Scoundrels or some other faction of their choosing. So that's kind of more or less what I believe to be the offensive Grand Arena meta. Now, defensive, what are we looking for defense? Oh boy, Galactic Legends. We're not going to talk too much about that. They're pretty self-explanatory, but it goes to what I said earlier. you have Galactic Legends, or if you don't have Galactic Legends, chances are they're going to be on defense no matter what. But for defense, what you want to do is kind of the inverse. For offense, you want to have teams that get you a lot of banners and they are solid counters to a variety of teams you're going to be seeing out there. For defense, what you want to do is have teams that steal banners and are tricky in general. Galactic Legends, Rey and Kylo, not going to talk too much about it because one might not be applicable to all of you guys, but Rey, there are so many variations of Rey out there that exist more so than Kylo. Kylo's a very good team, but in my opinion, this is going to be the best Galactic Legends Kylo team out there. There's some minor flexibility of Kylo. You could do Night Sisters, for example, dock a zombie with them, or throw in Malik in place of First Order Stormtrooper or Kylo Ren unmasked. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but in my opinion, this is the best and most difficult variation of Supreme Leader Kylo Ren in the 5v5 meta. But if you don't have Galactic Legends, in my opinion, then the best defensive team is going to be Darth Revan and the Sith Empire. And the reason why I say that is because this team is known for being tough to get high banners. Use General Anakin Skywalker, it's a dirty battle. Good luck getting perfect banners of General Anakin Skywalker. Chances are it's not going to happen unless it's a bad Darth Revan team. The counters that beat Darth Revan are scary. Like, you could use Jedi Knight Revan, but it's scary. Commander Luke Skywalker, you could win, but it's scary. General Anakin Skywalker, scary. This is going to for sure steal plenty of banners from your opponent. So if you don't need Darth Revan for offense, place it on defense no matter what division you're in. This is probably the best defensive team. After Galactic Legends, it gets a lot of it steals a lot of banners, lots of AoEs, lots of disgusting stuff. The Death Mark, we don't need to talk too much about Darth Revan, but if you don't want to do that, you can definitely break up Darth Revan to several offensive teams. You can put Bastila, for example, with Emperor Palpatine, throw Malik with either Kylo or Rey, and then Darth Revan, HK-47, and the Sith Marauder, Sith Trooper, whatever it might be. You can beat some other stuff. You can beat a bounty hunter team with just a couple of those left over, some Geonosians. And so you can definitely break up a Darth Revan team, but I think the best use of it is going to be on defense. Full Sith Empire team. Now, if you don't have Galactic Legends Kylo, or you're not going to use Kylo Ren unmasked with them, highly recommend you place it on defense. Kylo Ren, it's a pretty staple First Order team. It's not the best, but once you start adding things like Sith Trooper Larry, General Hux, it starts becoming a scarier defensive team. People just usually, for example, throw in Jedi Training Rey and lollygag around them in the field while they frolic together. But once you start implementing things like Larry the Sith Trooper and General Hux, this team gets a lot scarier on defense for sure. Or what you could do as well, I'm giving you opportunities and some ideas. Kylo Ren can solo, for example, a Karth Old Republic team, or teams that rely on damage over time. You can use this to solo them. But I think primarily this is going to be a good defensive team, whether or not you have a Galactic Legends Kylo or not. A lot of opportunities to form some solid First Order teams. Night Sisters, we don't got to talk too much about Night Sisters. I mean, it's definitely one of the more annoying teams out there. It's not a god tier team, but the appropriate counter you bring to it, there can be sometimes an annoyance. Night Sisters Spirit can, for example, stun your Padme early. That's annoying. Doesn't matter if you do Mother Talzin lead, Asajj lead. They're both very annoying leaders. They're going to steal a lot of banners if you're not bringing the appropriate counter. At least 2 banners can probably be stolen, 3 sometimes, or even a loss. Now, Bounty Hunters. They have a couple of options here. Now, ignoring Mando and Grief Karga, I think this is going to probably be the scariest defensive Bounty Hunter team out there. You have a lot of speed. You can have your Bosk open up, then your Grief. This is probably the best Bounty Hunter team out there. But of course, you're trying to steal banners. Good old Dengar. Throw in Dengar in there. That's probably one of the kings of stealing banners. He hides in their cell, keeps throwing out AoEs that have thermal detonators. I think Bounty Hunters are probably best used on defense. Of course, you could, for example, use this to counter Darth Revan as well. If you, for some reason, you're not using Commander Luke Skywalker, General Anakin Skywalker, or Padme, this team is also known for beating things like Darth Revan out there. But I think for defense, this is definitely going to scare your opponents. There's a lot of different Bounty Hunter combinations. I think Jango Lead is better on defense than Bosk Lead, but if you're trying to use Bounty Hunters on offense, I probably recommend you use Bosk Lead to nab some banners back. But we have some Separatists now. If you're not using Jango Fett with the Bounty Hunters and you're going to go with the Bosk Lead, for example, or Mando Lead, you have some opportunities with the Separatists to throw Jango Fett in there. General Grievous, this is pretty much the core 4. Right here in that 5th slot, people sometimes throw Droideka, BB-8, Newt Gunray, Pogolus. There's a lot of stuff to plug in that last slot. Some people get crazy and put Geonosian and Brood Alpha. I don't think that's smart. Again, you want to maximize your teams and your leaders out there. You want to try to keep the amount of leaders minimum in a particular team because you want to create another team with them. So needless to say, we don't got to talk too much about General Grievous, but it steals a lot of banners. Lots of AoEs, lots of debuffs, lots of ways for the Separatists to chip away at you, and especially Newt Gunray. That's going to steal a lot of banners and give Grievous a free Metalloid monstrosity. BB-8's going to let the droids open up really quickly. I don't see Grievous as a good offensive team because even though you might get wins, it's not a pretty win on offense. So that's why defense is the best way to use it for. And then we have Geonosians. For me, they're losing viability on Grand Arena defense, maybe because mine are just pure garbage, but they can definitely scare your opponents. Traditionally, people throw Trey up against it, Night Sisters, Jedi Training Raid, the Resistance Heroes, a Darth of an underdog. There's a lot of ways to go about Geonosians, but still, it might be a good back wall team for Grand Arena still, or front wall. There are some lower divisions that still cannot handle a Geonosians because they don't have a good Night Sister team. They don't have Darth Trey, for example. So at lower divisions, Geonosians are extremely powerful. At endgame, losing a bit of viability in the Grand Arena space. And then we have Newt Gunray and the Master Makash. There's a lot of ways to go about this. If you're not using Django with Bounty Hunters, I recommend throw Django down here and boom, you got yourself a team. I've seen some really nasty lineups that instead of Sith Trooper, they put Darth Malak. It's interesting. It is scary. It makes you kind of turn your head. You got to kind of think twice before going in. I think this is probably going to be the best way of utilizing your Newt Gunray as well as your Count Dooku. And she's kind of plug and play, but this is a really ugly and annoying trio to go up against in Grand Arena, especially if these three are fast. Whew, your opponent's going to have a nightmare. No, we're not going to talk too much about Rebel Fighters. It's kind of more of the pay to play, more of the new marquee stuff out there, but I do want to put it out there. Even if you don't have a 7-star Mon Mothma Rebel Fighters, if you're in lower divisions, give it a chance. You probably have a 3-star Mon Mothma for free. You might have her geared up. You might have some mishmash leftover Rebel Fighters. It probably could be a solid back wall Grand Arena defense team. It's gotten me some solid wins in Territory Wars and 3v3 Grand Arena because they share stats. Your low gear, low star Rebel Fighters will be a bit beefier than what they would have been otherwise without Mon Mothma. So I suggest even if you don't have a good Rebel Fighter team, this is going to be a team we're going to start seeing more and more and more over the months. Probably has a bit more defensive viability than that right now, but both of these teams here are kind of susceptible to the same counters. Jawas, Treya, Jedi Training Raid. So they're not unbeatable, but if your opponent hasn't planned accordingly, these two teams can be kind of annoying. And then lastly, I mean, there's so many other teams out there. Usually people just kind of add those filler teams, a random Captain Phasma team, Old Republic. I have a garbage Old Republic team, some scoundrel teams out there. I don't have those teams, but again, kind of like our Imperial Trooper conversation we had a moment ago, look at your roster. You kind of want at least one or two teams that are off the beaten path that are solid, whether you go down the offensive path or the defensive path. Imperial Troopers are amazing on offense for cleaning up stuff, but there are some solid defensive teams like these scoundrels and Old Republics that we're looking right here. So there's a lot of ways to go about Grand Arena, but more or less, I believe this is what the meta looks like. These are the most common offensive teams, the most common defensive teams out there. Again, the biggest tip that I can give you while we zoom back out here is for offense, maximize those banners. Try to underdog. Be prepared to counter Galactic Legends with the best counters available. And for defense, you want to be stealing as many banners as possible from your opponent and giving them a tougher defense and some unique stuff. The cool thing about it, especially if you have those off the beaten path teams, your opponent might not be too familiar with them, and that can catch them off guard too. So have fun, maybe mix things up. There's a lot of ways to mix up your Grand Arena experience. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, like if you did enjoy the video, comment down below, subscribe so you're not missing a thing. Get ready for another month of Grand Arena, and we'll see you lovely ladies and gentlemen in the next video. Gary, roll out that outro, baby.